TGIF, a little midweek bonus episode of Six Rotations for all of you, our volleyball fans, our diehard compatriots that were able to stick through what were some nerve-wracking matches on Thursday. Welcome in, as always, brought to you by SNA Sports, better equipment for a better game, snasportsgroup.com. I think I said SNA.com last week. So, Mick, where do we even start, right? I mean, the fans, the atmosphere, such a difference from the Omaha regional a year ago, or not even a year ago, right? Only 7-8 months ago. And now as we look at this slate of what may be considered pretty chalky, the top four teams are all still there. What were some of your biggest takeaways from Thursday?
Well, the fan involvement was one of the things I took away. The moment got too big for some players. I thought that was interesting in a couple of, at least one match where they got to the point where they could win and the players kind of panicked, then that would lead to maybe better scheduling the following year. Some teams were stale, and I thought that's interesting this late in the season. I thought they would be a little bit more aggressive. Maybe a player or two only getting double digits in kills. Everything seemed to be lower than the stats for the season, which would indicate to me much better defense in the playoffs. So those were my takeaways.
I was just happy to see us start on a 5-set note, because we talked last episode about the minimal, only 2 in the second round and 3 in the first round. And then right off the bat, we get that Purdue against BYU wacky one where Purdue storms out to the first set and the announcers are making excuses that BYU hadn't woken up yet, it's my favorite thing, because we're not dealing with like 35-year-old professional athletes that are like, we have to play 6 a.m. our time. These are 18, 19, 20, 21, 22-year-olds. I guarantee if you put BYU in a match at 6 a.m. in any time zone, they're going to be okay to wake up and play for a regional final. So that always cracks me up. But I mean, Mick, the Boilermakers do it again. They force a fifth set. They block their opponents out of the gym, and down 14-10, Jenna Otek gets back-to-back aces interrupted by the timeout. Was it a BYU choke, or even more of an incredible performance by that senior class in Lafayette?
I thought the serving really caused the most damage, but I think the thing that I saw in that 14-10, the bumping of free ball into the net, really was the thing that froze the BYU players. That was an unnecessary error, unforced error. And even one of those gives hope to the other team. Then Otek makes those 2 serves between the 2 players, and no one seemed to take responsibility. They seemed to look at each other, and then they pulled one player away from the other player. And it just got to be very, I don't know how you would describe it, but they became very afraid. I don't want to really use that word, but that's what it looked like, afraid to make an error.
I'll tell you what, it was an instance where I think a lot of people watching at home, and all of you that are watching that are in high school or club ball, and you've seen your team collapse, right? And, make mistakes at match point, at set point, and then seeing some of the best in the country and some of the best in the world, right? Someone like Kenzie Korber, who's going to play in some version of the national team, I'm sure, when she graduates, not execute in the biggest moments, just shows the human side of sports. It's the coolest part. It is. You never know what's going to happen.
I've been there though, Daniel. I mean,
you texted me about it. Go ahead.
2016, I'm ahead. I've come back against Kansas after they're up 2-0. We get to the 5th set. We get up 14-10. My freshman setter, tries to dump a ball and goes into the net. Bricio has 2 swings at a split block, can't score, and we lose, and Kansas goes to the Final Four. Devastating. I can't imagine how BYU feels, because I know how we felt when that happened to us.
Oh, so that was quite the match. I mean, I will say that, as hot as Taylin Ballard-Dixon was in the second and third sets, when you saw BYU take that lead, her stats, I mean, she finished with just 10 kills. I feel like we saw her have 10 kills in just the second or third set. So that's one where they really just depended a little too much, I think, on Livingston, who didn't really, put up the execution necessary. And obviously Korver was phenomenal there at the end, getting kills when it needed it. But in system, the Purdue Boilermakers are one of the most efficient teams there is, right? When you can go to Colvin in the middle, Cleveland on the outside. We don't have to talk too much about every individual match, because there's a match like Pittsburgh and Kansas where Ende and Lund, when they're clicking, are now going to have a great battle. We can preview that. Pittsburgh Purdue will be the first of the day tomorrow if you're watching this on Friday, or today if you're watching it on Saturday. Purdue against Pittsburgh, starting us off at 4 p.m. Eastern time.
That'll be a
who
battle.
has the nod? Yeah, who's got your nod there? It's in Fitzgerald Fieldhouse, but we talked a lot about the effect of students, and in a field house of nearly 4,000, there were only about 1,500 people there for Pittsburgh. So I'm hoping that they can pack it on a Saturday where there's no work or school, but it was a little disappointing to see the lack of fans down there.
I think the time and the day of Thursday may have had a lot to do with that. I mean, people just can't take off work and come to a game. Students are in finals in many places. I don't know what their situation was there, but I give them a pass. We'll see what happens Saturday, because I've seen them fill that place up for Penn State. So I know they will come.
Yeah. And Kansas, they only got to 20 points once at Pittsburgh. It wasn't a match that I think too many people had their eye on after we saw a little bit of domination. Second set was tight. Nobody on Kansas got to 10 kills. In fact, only one player, and it was Bien, that had more than 20 swings. So that's, maybe a nod at how efficient the Panthers were. Ende 14-2, 19 swings from an outside hitter there in Ende. Lund only took 17 swings. So it was one of those wacky kind of matches. And now we'll have Purdue against
it's gonna be important to play defense in this tournament, maybe more than I even anticipated when we talked last time. So if you look, the numbers of kills are down with all the teams. They're down around 12 kills, but they've been having 14, 15 kills per set. So it's pretty interesting to watch where defense comes in. And of course, the blocking, Purdue's blocking has been phenomenal, but the other team's blocking has been good too, in number of matches. So we need to look at that going into Saturday.
And then we'll just go in order of the times then, because another maybe slightly disappointing set of circumstances in terms of fans came in Freedom Hall, where there was so much talk about how Louisville and Bellarmine basketball had to switch their times so that volleyball could play in the regional in this massive, right? Over 15,000 fans capacity in this huge Freedom Hall, and only about 3,000 people ended up going to watch Florida and Louisville. And like you said, maybe a Thursday afternoon start time had to do with it, but that match was never in doubt. Louisville is going to match up with Georgia Tech, who also had a clean sweep of Ohio State. What were your depictions of those two ACC teams? Because Ohio State did put up more of a fight than Florida, but Georgia Tech and Louisville looked like they never had it in doubt.
I was a little disappointed in Florida. I really thought they had the athletes that could really play, and they seem to be playing with poor us kind of feeling, like we've lost our best left side. They're kind of making mistakes and excuses, and I really thought they should have grouped together and come and brought it. And I think they did try, but it just didn't look like they were all together again. So that was my take there. The Ohio State one was really disappointing, because Ohio State has scored 18.7 points per set all season. They couldn't get a ball on the floor. Londot had 9. They just Gonzalez didn't score in double figures, and they didn't play with that defense we saw in the early part of the season. You remember when they were running off the court, digging balls, bringing them back, constantly out of system. They just looked tired to me.
It was. Let me go back to Florida really quickly, because I think it was just an instance where they had run into a bit of an unstoppable force, because they did lead 20-17 in the second set. I remember watching, kind of keeping an eye. Beeson's playing well. Sophia Victoria is going to be a shining star. She's the replacement for Caesar out there, has a nasty top spin serve, but it just came into a moment where Louisville made every play at the end of the second set. Chaussee came up big with a couple key kills. Stevenson went back-to-back at 22 all. And once you take that lead of 24-22, it was a little insurmountable there for the Gators, who at the end of the day have to be proud that they were able to represent their state, right? They were able to kind of smush their little sister in Miami in that sweep and see Florida State not move on. So I think moving forward, it's not a devastating kind of loss for Florida. Like you said, they have that excuse in their back pocket that they
But
didn't have Caesar.
don't forget Central Florida, because they represented really well. They almost had UCLA out at UCLA, and that's 4 Florida teams that I thought performed quite well.
Yeah, and I'm still happy, going back to it, I'm still happy that they put UCF.
Florida Gulf Coast too.
Yep. Oh yeah, FGCU, of course.
Yeah.
They had a win, but I'm still happy that they put both UCF and Florida Gulf Coast out of that, so we didn't have to see those Florida teams all battling together. But at the end of the day, who got the furthest? It's always going to be the Gators. But back to that Ohio State match. Every set was tight, and that's what you have to hope for as a fan watching objectively. But Georgia Tech, they did what they needed to do at the end of each set, and the announcers not knowing Brambia's name was funny enough, but watching Madi and having talked to, and that's the coolest part of this show, Mick, and watching all of these matches, I think we've talked to somebody on almost every team that was in the regional semifinals, except for maybe BYU and Washington. We had reached out to both of them in the last few weeks. I wanted to get a Korver interview after the Utah win, never heard anything back from them. But now, as we sit here, Purdue, Pittsburgh, Georgia Tech, Louisville, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Nebraska, Texas. I think we just have to talk to somebody from Nebraska, and we've got all 8 covered. But hearing from Bergman and Brambilla, and now seeing them step up when they needed to, and they've got a 6 p.m. Eastern time match in Louisville, where I'm sure they're going to have some fans. That's a challenge to Louisville. You've got to get more than 3,000 people in there, don't you, if you're the number 1 overall team?
Oh, I think they will. I think they'll be over 5,000. And Brambilla needs to be 18 for 36 again, because she's 50% kill. 50% kill will kill you, let me tell you. And she was bringing it. It wasn't the dink and dump show. It was bring it and bounce it. She was really on her game.
Georgia Tech headed to their first regional finals since 2003. They're gonna guarantee an ACC team in the Final Four there. Remember, we talked about those 3 teams in the top left quadrant. Well, the Big Ten have their matchup down in the bottom left. We'll talk about them now. The ACC guaranteed in the top left. It'll be the first ACC team in the Final Four since 2011. The Big Ten will have a Final Four representative for the 15th straight year, as Big Ten with 4, ACC with 3. Big 12 nearly got shut out. We'll cover that in just a moment, but let's head down, or up, I should say, to Madison, where there were no issues in terms of having fans. I saw lines out the door, near capacity, just to watch the play-in of sorts with a classic 5-setter, one of 3 5-setters yesterday. And there was never a moment where Baylor in Minnesota was disappointing. Yassiana Presley, Stephanie Samity, Skinner was battling a little bit of something, right? She ran into her teammate there late. You saw Avery Skinner kind of drop off in the 4th set, as did the entire Bears team, and Minnesota takes it in 5. As, man, Miyabe was huge. I think she had double-digit kills. You need that second scorer, right? And yesterday it was Wenis and Miyabe.
Miyabe was 18 for 37. That is just an unbelievable output. But Samity, something happened to Samity. She couldn't score. She was 16 for 61. Now think of that. She's usually around 50% kill, and her body didn't work for some reason.
Well, let me ask you: you were at Austin, so you were watching were you watching Minnesota Baylor?
Yeah, I was. I had my iPad right there. I saw it all. And I listened to Hugh afterwards, Hugh McCutcheon, the Minnesota head coach. He said he just thought she couldn't get in rhythm. Then I heard
saw a lot of fatigue. What I saw was with fatigue.
Something about heat, but nobody talked about heat. So I'm not sure, but the point is, Miyabe took on the responsibility, and she wasn't even supposed to start this year. And Wenis was good. And Wenis was good because she got kills at the right time, not because she got a lot of kills, but she got kills at the right time. She hit shots, according to Hugh, that she doesn't normally hit, and they scored. Deep 5, those particular shots were just insurmountable for the other team to really recover.
Yeah, so Baylor takes the first set. It looks like maybe they're going to, take care of business. It's a rematch in Madison from that season opener that Baylor won in 4 sets. Minnesota takes the second 25-22. The third was, almost all Baylor. They were up 17-13. They led 2017. They pulled away with a couple key service errors and attack errors by Minnesota, 25-20. Fourth set, couldn't have been more fun. I mean, Baylor led 16-13. It looked like the Bears were going to do it. And I had a fun stat all queued up too, because each of the last 3 seasons, Purdue had lost in the tournament to either Avery Skinner or Yassiana Presley. And this year they were together, because it was 2018 Kentucky, 2019 Baylor, 2020 Kentucky. So I was like, oh, wow, if Purdue plays in the championship against Baylor, something's got to give there. But instead, it was a late surge, an ace by Katie Myers, maybe the biggest ace of her career there at 22 all. Presley makes an error. Skinner gets a kill, which, pulled them within 1 there. And then Samity, when they needed it most, forced the 5th set. And that 5th set at 9-8, I don't know what happened, but everything changed. There was something on the court where it was tight through the first 20 or so points. And then that 5-0 finish from 10-all to 15-10, a stampeding by the 12 seed to show that the Big Ten is not going anywhere.
I thought what happened was the selection of where the ball went for Baylor. I don't know why, but I think the ball went in the wrong places after that. And
there were a lot of Vandermark swings, I'll tell you that.
Yeah. I think the wrong people got the ball, and so it gave advantage to Minnesota. And I think you have to go with the ball where you feel you're going to score. So it was just didn't work out for those choices. But
and all the credit in the world to Shaftmaster, who did not really she stayed away from Samity at the end of this match. Samity got a kill at 9-8 to make it 10-8. And then it was Miyabe, and the attack error by Vandermark. So the credit to her to not force it to Samity too much there late. And then how about Ryan McGuire taking both of his timeouts back to Waco with him? That's going to be a head scratcher for the next couple months.
I think Ryan coaches by feel. And if he feels his athletes are in control, he's going to let them run it. I do think that's interesting, though.
It was certainly interesting. And we can, kind of pair together a couple matches here with Wisconsin and Nebraska both sweeping. It was a typical showcase from Cook and Sheffield, in my opinion. It was one of those where I don't think either of the teams were ever in doubt from my watching.
I watched Nebraska close. I sat right courtside and I watched. I don't have a good feeling for Nebraska. I think their athletes are wonderful, but there's something that's not 100%. Now I say this, and you watch what happens. They're going to come out and play lights out on Saturday.
I have no doubts that Saturday night match, which for all you guys, 10 p.m. Eastern time between Nebraska and Texas, I have no doubts that it's going to be a tight one. Okay, and we'll wait to get the predictions till we talk about the Texas match. But man, and it's an instance where Nebraska's players are so confident in themselves. That's what I see. What do you see as a coach watching Nebraska play? Wisconsin as well. I mean, they didn't let UCLA get to 20 once. It was 16, 18, and 17 in that one, with Orgel from the right side looking phenomenal. These right side hitters in the Big Ten, Mick, are unstoppable. I mean, think about what we've got going, right? With Samity and Cleveland and Orgel, and then Krause for Nebraska is so solid and so.
Don't forget Newton, because Newton.
Well, she's left side. I was saying right side.
Oh, right side. Yeah, sure. But I just go back.
Caitlin Newton is so hard to stop.
Hitting the cover off the ball. I mean, the velocity with which she hit with, and the Georgia Tech kid hitting with velocity. Oh, and the Nebraska middle, they were running a little 1.5 to her. I'm sorry, I've forgotten her name.
Kathy.
But she was crushing.
Yep. 11-17 for Kayla. And you know what? I want to wrap this up before we talk Texas. We had to save Texas for last, but it was a good point by Paul Sunderland. He asked Salima last night, is Maddie Kubik the best 6 rotation left side hitter in the Big Ten? And Salima said yes. She thought about it for a little bit. I threw a poll out there. It's about 60-40 in favor of Kubik. I would go towards Newton. But what that does show, and I want to hear your opinion in a second, but it shows the strength in the right side in the Big Ten. There's not, the right side hitters with Samity and Cleveland and, Orgel and Krause and everything. On the left side, in terms of sixth rotation, it's just really Newton and Kubik.
I think that's right. I watched, I'll tell you what Nebraska seems to feel about Kubik. They run a couple of rotations with only 2 receivers. And guess what? Kubik's one of them. And so they have to feel that her fundamentals in passing,
he's elite,
and defense. And then Kubik will play middle back, and then she'll play left back when the middle comes back to serve. She'll move to left back. So she is a player that can play multiple positions, that they count on for double-digit kills in the front row, and is a blocker that can take the 1 foot and defend, at least get the touches and keep that ball from going down all the time. So having said that, they're probably going to want her or one of the other left side on Asia O'Neal when they play Texas on Saturday night.
With Jermaine standing the whole time and ESPN showing it every 30 seconds.
He just about died when Asia hit that ball into the net late in that match. He just crumpled like, oh my goodness. And as a parent, I know how that is, because we all just want our kids to do well. And when something like that happens, you go, oh my goodness. So pretty fun.
The Illinois was without one of their best players, maybe their best player. Megan Cooney was announced out at the last moment due to an illness. So that really hurt them. One more note I had, how about that first point in the Wisconsin UCLA match? It was a kick save, ricocheting off the shoulder by Martin down there, ricocheting off, giving them the UCLA that first point. That was probably the peak of their match there before Wisconsin really put the punishing on. But now we've got it, right? We've come to that moment. No fan worry. Over 4,500 in the Gregory Gym on Thursday night. I was a little upset with what they did allocation wise, because right in the middle, and I was texting about it and we tweeted about it, you can't have it be empty right for the camera angle and then have all the Illinois students pack that zone. Why wouldn't you just put more people there for the first game if you know that nobody's going to show up? That didn't make any sense to me. That wasn't good planning.
Yeah, I talked to the Texas officials about that, and they told me they wanted to do that also, but the NC2A said that they had to keep that area open.
You've got to know where the camera's angling. That's the thing. I mean, right. from a broadcaster's perspective, you have to know, and maybe they thought the camera was coming from the other way, so they filled that spot, but you have to, I mean, it looks so bad when it feels like, the gym is empty because you're seeing 4 rows of nothing and the Texas students have to stand in the back. But here, before we dive into that, Mick and I, we talked about this match on Monday and we gave our opinions, and this is how it went. Well, Washington is going to now have the big one. They head down to Austin to face Texas at 7:30 p.m. Eastern time on Thursday. Can we just pencil that in for a 5-setter, or am I getting too consistent? Because I feel like every year Washington plays this amazing 5-setter in the regional semifinals.
They need to get one of the first 2 sets. Washington does.
Yep.
Otherwise, Texas and that crowd in that small gym, Gregory Gym, is going to be a little stifling for the size of the Washington players. I mean, the court's going to be really small. Both these teams are huge. And when they both go out there on the court together, there's not going to be a lot of room left, that somebody can't get a ball unless it's in the stands. So I think Texas wins that maybe easier than we think, but I could be surprised.
No way. Shocker.
No, I'm
you're the best, Mick. No, I know.
I'm neutral on this, but I watched the Longhorns handle Rice, and I was absolutely impressed with 3 things: their serving, their blocking, and their intensity.
And Mick, now, I mean, I like being right. 5-setters are fun. We were both kind of right. You said Washington had to win one of the first 2 sets. You said it was a small gym and everyone was really big, but while you were there, ooh, what a comeback, right? 2017 in the third. And if Texas doesn't, kind of chip away there late in that third, it looks like it's over.
Well, Texas played with more than 6 players. I mean, they had, it wasn't fair. Washington did exactly what they needed to do. They took Texas out of the first set. quieted the fans. They played ahead in both sets. They won the second set. And now we go to the third set, and the fans are nowhere to be found. It's like zero attendance. We're playing in the COVID era, and it gets to be 15-11, and everybody's looking at their watch saying, what's going on? And all at once, one good play, Skylar Fields gets a kill on a cut shot. I almost think she missed it, actually, and it went straight down, and people got a little excited. The setter for Texas jumped up in the air, and lo and behold, the next time you look, it's 17-17. And then game on. The fans are into it.
Yep.
And now Texas feels comfortable. And
I would say even after that, Washington goes on a 3-0 run to take a 2017 lead. And again, the place loses its oxygen, and you need an Eggleston run. And she had a phenomenal, I want to say it was an Eggleston service run there. The serves, right? The 11 service errors were not as costly. I've seen a lot of people clamoring the broadcasters are overblowing what a service error really brings to because it just means you're serving tough. So it's like a service error, as long as it doesn't happen at 24-23 when you're serving down one, right? As long as it's not a set ending service error, it's not devastating. But Eggleston's line was 25-34 for a 441 percentage. Butler hit 471 with 9 kills. O'Neal hits 467 without an error. Man, get me to tomorrow night already. I cannot wait.
Yeah, and I thought one other thing. I thought that Washington got too comfortable. After the first set, Texas rotated different matchups, which is exactly what you do. And Washington won that. So they stayed with those matchups in the third set, and Texas comes back at the end. Now they have an option to rotate and match up again so that they have a bigger blocker on Skylar Fields, and they didn't do that. Skylar really gets into the match. The fans get her going, and when Fields can block and hit out there, she slows down Dreschel, and my goodness, Washington couldn't score after that. And so Washington not being able to score and the fans going nuts, Texas steamrolls into that fifth set, and they didn't look back.
Oh, but just I just want to stand and clap for that senior class in Washington, right? With Kale, the libero, and Dreschel and Sanders in the middle. And I think LMA Powell is done. I'm not 100% sure on that. I know she was a junior during COVID, senior now, so I'm not 100% sure. But man, the Huskies, maybe the most underrated team in the last 3 years, cumulatively, and all of the success that they've put together, losing in the regionals 2 years ago, losing in 5 in the regional finals in the Final Four last year, and then here losing in 5 in the regional finals this year. It was a fun Thursday. Cannot wait for this Saturday. Well, one more time for you: Purdue Pitt at 4 Eastern, Georgia Tech Louisville at 6, Wisconsin Minnesota. Woo! Wisconsin Minnesota. That's just a Big Ten brawl there, and then Nebraska, Texas at 10 o'clock. Are you thinking 4 chalks? That's my last question for you.
Am I thinking what?
1, 2, 3, and 4 coming out. What do you think?
No,
4, a yes or a no?
Kentucky is out, but
well, Kentucky was 7.
Yeah.
This is 1, 2, 3, and 4 can still make it.
Yeah, they can. I think Texas beats Nebraska. I think Wisconsin beats Minnesota. I got to think Louisville has beaten Georgia Tech twice.
Comes down to Purdue Pitt. I agree.
And so then Purdue Pitt right now, Pitt's offense is good. Purdue's defense is really good. That's a flip of the coin, but you got to kind of root a little bit for Purdue for this year, just a little bit, but Pitt's been trying to make this transition. And
I think there are stories for both teams, right? Thinking about what Pittsburgh went through the year that they nearly went undefeated. We're hosting the Final Four. It's tough. It's I don't know. I think the home field, and I don't know. We don't know what it's going to be, right? For a 4 o'clock for a first serve. If Fitzgerald is nuts, if they are raucous and belligerent, that is going to make the difference. If not, and they only bring, 2,000 again, then that's, that leaves an opening for Purdue, because the drive from West Lafayette to Pittsburgh is not that far.
Well, it's interesting you talk about spectators, because last year's tournament played with no spectators and the matches were good. They were fun.
Yeah.
They were highly contested. So we're adding a new element this year again that we didn't have last year. It'll be interesting to see how this goes.
All right. Well, we can't wait to break it all down for you early next week. So keep your tabs. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube so you can get the ping right away. If not, check our social medias for Tuesday morning, which is usually when all the posts go out. But maybe Monday afternoon, we'll have it for you with a little advanced copy. Until then, he's Mick, I'm Daniel, and this is Six Rotations.